introduce myself. My name is Francisca, and I'm from Department of Cardiology and Vascular Medicine, Medical Faculty of Universitas Brawijaya, Saiful Anwar General Hospital. I'll be presenting our case titled Double Jeopardy in CTO Revascularization, stent thrombosis and pericardial tamponade from angiographically silent coronary perforation. As a start, there is an increase in PCI for CTO procedures in the last decade. Obviously, due to the advancements in stents, antithrombotic drugs, procedural strategies, and also the skills of the operator itself. However, we still have several challenges in the CTO PCI, particularly in complications such as stent thrombosis and also coronary perforation that can result in tamponade, obstructive shock, and also mortality. As we know from the 2008 ATDSC guidelines of the myocardial revascularization, we can highlight the advantages of revascularization in CTO, aside from optimal medication alone, particularly in patients with high-risk events such as patients with multivessel disease, patients with proximal LAD stenosis, patients with lung disease, and also for patients that are still symptomatic with optimal medical therapy. The next question is, should we do PCI or CABG? We know that CABG is the preferred options, especially for patients with complex lesions such as fluid vessel disease and high syntax score, and particularly patients with diabetes if the patient is a good surgical candidate. And PCI is reserved for patients with single vessel CTOs and also patients with prior history of CABG. However, we have to note that the CTO PCI is a high-risk procedure and ideally should be performed by experienced operators with high success rates, and also we have to be prepared for any complications that may occur during the procedures. And our case is 53 years old male with history of hypertension, diabetes mellitus, and also history of cigarette smoking that presented with class 3 angina. Patient had a history of inferior stemi and also enzymi in the last 2 months with no obvious history of cardiac disease in the family, and patient has been given treatment of dual antiplatelets, statins, and also treatment for heart failure and also insulin for the management of the diabetes. Patients presented with an ECG showing inferior ischemia, signs of left lateral enlargement, and also poor aortic progression. And from the CXR, we can see there's a slight cardiomegaly, and from the echocardiography, there's signs of eccentric left ventricular hypertrophy with reduced ejection fraction, and also secondary moderate mitral regurgitation with regional wall motion abnormalities suggesting a multivessel disease. From the lab standpoints, we can see that the A1C level is still uncontrolled with high LDL, but still with good renal function test. And this is EDC of the patients. We can see that there is CTO at the ostial of the LAD with guiding lateral from the RCA to the diagonal septal and also distal LAD with normal and short left main artery, and from the LCX, there is non-dominant LCX with high position and also large caliber of obtuse marginal 1 branch. And the RCA is dominant. There is diffuse stenosis from the proximal to distal, but without significant stenosis. And the distal RCA being collateral to the septal and diagonal branch of the LAD and also distal of LAD. So the target of the PCI was, it was decided to target the CTO and the LAD. We used pilot 50 wire to direct it through the distal of the LAD, but there was some difficulties, and the wire entered the septal, and then after that entered the diagonal branch, and then we decided to perform angioplasty at the diagonal until the proximal LAD, and then the diagonal one branch is open. After that, we can see that the flow to the LAD is slightly restored. And then after that, it was decided to perform stenting at the proximal to the mid LAD, and we used a sirolimus electing stent with biological coating to the proximal and mid LAD, and we inflate the stent. And the very final angiography, we can see here that there is thin flow free at the LAD and without any visible sign of contrast externalization. After the procedure, patient was observed for 1 hour at the recovery room. He was complaining of chest pain, but with NRS 1 until 2, and it resolved after was presented with shock, and then we transferred the patient obviously immediately to the ICU, and then we performed examination including the bedside echocardiography, and we found that there is signs of pericardial effusion, and we performed emergency pericardiosynthesis bedside. After that, the hemodynamic improved, and we decided the patient to transfer to the cath lab for emergency DCA evaluation. At the DCA evaluation, we can see that there is no flow after the middle part of the LAD, so there's acute stent thrombosis at the LAD, and then we try to restore the flow by wiring to the distal LAD, but it was quite difficult, and then we redirected the wire, and then after wiring, we can see that the flow to the distal LAD is slightly restored, and then after the wiring, we can see that there is slight contrast extravasation suggesting a stent edge dissection and coronary perforation. And we performed a prolonged balloon inflation only for 60 to 120 seconds. And then we decided to implant a cover stent to the site of coronary perforation, and then followed by the stenting of remaining coronary lesion at the mid to the distal part of the LAD. And after the procedure, the kidney flow is free with no contrast extravasation. After the second PCI, we transferred the patient to the ICU. Unfortunately, the patient developed pneumonia the following day, and the pericardial effusion resolved, and the catheter was removed after 2 days. Patient was optimotropic and moved to regular ward after 3 days, and successfully discharged without any symptoms after 6 days. Coronary perforation is one of the most severe complications of CTO PCI, unfortunately, with an incidence ranging from 1.4 until more than 10% in several multi-center registries, and is 4 more times more frequent in CTO PCI compared to the non-CTO PCI. Several risk factors have been associated with coronary perforation, such as increased age, moderate to severe calcification, and the use of several techniques such as ADR and also the retrograde approach. And coronary perforation is associated with poor and short and midterm outcomes related to bleeding events, such as cardiogenic shock, cardiac tamponade, transfusion, and also major bleeding. What is the mechanism of coronary perforation during CTO PCI? Obviously, it is all the devices that going through the coronary. The most frequent one is the wire, and the balloon, microcatheter, stent, and atherectomy device. And how about what patient? What happened? We suggested that the inadequate distal landing zone at the first PCI might have caused a stent edge dissection and undetected coronary perforation. And the dissection also induced stent thrombosis, and stent thrombosis and coronary perforation that cause cardiac tamponade presented as shock. This is the mix of between cardiogenic and obstructive shock that was partially linked with emergency pericardiosynthesis. What is stent edge dissection? Stent edge dissection is characterized by vessel tearing that caused by the mismatch of compliance between the stent and also the vessel. And usually it was defined as the dissection at 5 millimeters proximal or distal to the stent borders, and several key predictors of stent edge dissection is one of them is the stent borders over the deceased and reference segments. And how can we improve what happened to our patients? One is by employing intracoronary imaging such as IVUS or ICT in identifying and managing stent edge dissection. We can detect significant edge dissection using imaging, particularly with IVUS. And also, intracoronary imaging can help us in guiding for optimal stent deployment, particularly in several complex lesions such as lesions with asymmetric and cerebral blood burden, calcified plaque, or relatively large diameter of stent. And several studies has also outlined that the IVUS guided PCI improves clinical outcome in selected patients with laminations and CTOs. So how do we manage vessel perforation in this patient? The first is balloon inflation, followed by fluids and vasopressor, and also we perform pericardiosynthesis. After that, we use cover stent, and in the end, we use reverse coagulation in this patient. And the learning.
Just short of the presentation, please.
And the learning point from this patient is that coronary perforation might be angiographically but not clinically silent, and we have to eliminate cardiac tamponade first in the event of shock following PCI. And imaging guided PCI, particularly IFUS, enhances clinical outcomes in specific patients with cognition sensitivity. Thank you.
Thank you. So, the chance now is to the Chairman of Scientific and Chairman of Organizing, Dr. Doni Lasha. Please be on.
Sorry, this is Justin. And then look like the tamponade goes by the line, like most likely. And then when you do PCI, I think really important to do approach with that you calculate both LED and RCA just to make sure that the wire goes on the right track. And then look like when the operator did the PCI, they just use one approach, right? Like one approach. So I think for me, not for the comment, but I think it's better to do two manual approach to just to make sure that your wire goes into the right movement.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna add to something about the presentation. I think it's a nice presentation. Even this is talk about perforation, I think I would like to see you concentrate more on the final angiogram of the PCI because it's okay. But I just give you an input because you mentioned about the silent, but I couldn't. It was too short for me to evaluate. Yeah, but in the end, it's definitely there's a temperament and then to overcome. It's a good presentation.
Thank you, sir. Very good presentation. I want to ask you just a very quick question. Were you thinking of preparing cover stents since you have perforation? And does your lab have any cover stents ready?
Yes, fortunately at our clinic we have covered stent, even though that not all sizes available, but at least we have some covered stents already.
Yeah, this is very important issue that all patients should have stent. Actually, it's time limit around your presentation.
Thank you, Chairman.
So I really